Yeah, it's been a while since I made my last video, and I think that is because all the things that I've been learning spiritually about astrology, numerology, I've been learning a little bit about the Kabbalah, and I've been learning about, Thelema and a bunch of different magical systems, and more about psychology, more about Christianity. And I find that recently all of the information is finally taking hold. Like, I didn't have the perspective to utilize any of the information that I was receiving. And even now, I wouldn't say that I can fully utilize the information that I received from that experience of learning. And I'm still learning. But I am at least now at the beginning, right at the root. I'm going to name this video "The Root Chakra is the Root of All Evil." And I came to that conclusion because of my study of the Life Path 9. I am a Life Path 9. And we wearing red today, baby. The reason why is because the root chakra is where the Life Path 9 is usually kept. Now, people may know who GG33 is, and I don't know anything about what he says other than the negatives. Nines are simps. Um, I remember he put this tweet out: nines are always stuck in the root chakra. Nines are the worst at manifesting. Nines are always in rehab clinics. Nines are addicts. So, a bunch of the negatives. I didn't see that as a negative. At first, yeah, it hurt my feelings. I had to go boo-hoo about it. But that wasn't a negative. After reframing my perspective on the information he gave out, he actually gave out a lot of information at nines. If you can do your own research, I think that's something that a nine should be able to do. But that led me to learning about Mars as the lesser malefic. And I have this playlist called Life Path 9 Necessities. There's a video by Dot Darling, and she talks about Mars. She's very knowledgeable about the occult. I recommend that video. But I learned about Mars, and now I am looking at the Astral Doorway videos talking about the root or all of the chakras. And I started with the root chakra, and my understanding of it is still very limited at the moment. I usually have to chew the information by rewatching videos over and over again in order for it to sink in and actually take hold, and I have to see it from a bunch of different perspectives. But I learned enough to know that I was a baby, that the root chakra can keep people in a state of mind that is constantly trying to affirm all of these egos that they have in their head, these little egos that are spurred from different places that they've been, like different environments, different friend groups, different ideas that they've picked up or ideas that I've picked up. I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness, when I went to school, especially middle school through high school, my mental fortitude wasn't strong enough for me not to be permeated by different group thought ideas. It wasn't strong enough. And I was a kid, of course. I didn't even have the perspective of spirituality, although that was the time I got into frequencies. That's very interesting. And meditation. I didn't learn to not go with the crowd. I always kept an open mind about what could be, and that did lead to a downfall in a sense for myself. Um, Now, the downfall is always the pulling back of the bow before it's launched. And right at the maximum point of tension is when you start to is when a lot of ideas start to take hold, but it's also when a lot of pain is built up. And that's where I'm at now. I love life, and I will treat life with a smile on my face always and as much as I can. And I will never give up on life. But pain does exist for me right now. And I have to take responsibility of my life. Let me get back. Let me go back on tangent because I definitely went off. The root chakra will have you try to affirm different identities because your ego is telling you you need to be a certain way. Your ego is telling you this is who you are. And there are a bunch of different pathways that that ego can take. And there's certain things you will do to reaffirm that. Now, when you are in a egoic state of mind, you are not moving from a place of consciousness. You are moving from a place in which your emotions and your lesser logic dictates where you are going to go in your life. When I say lesser logic, I mean there are certain thoughts that generate in your head that you will believe. Now, a lot of thoughts are generated by emotion, but also there are certain thoughts that we hang on to, certain thoughts that we pick up, like a cool rock along the road, and we put it in our pocket and we never offload it. We never get rid of that rock that we thought is all cool, but really, has a little bit of dog shit at the bottom of it. We never really look through the rocks to see what's of value. Being in the root chakra will have you operate out of fear, ego, and materialism. Along the time that I got into high school, I was excessively knocking it off. Um, and I learned about NoFap. I I didn't pursue a relationship and got heartbroken because I didn't have the inner strength to go after it. But I thought that she would chase after me, as the naive kid would believe. And the emotion wasn't strong enough on her end. And that was a lesson I had to learn. But around that time, I learned about NoFap, and that was, I believe, the absolute beginning of my spiritual journey because it was from a very secular standpoint of NoFap. NoFap, while it does have its spiritual utility, it definitely around the time looked at science, debunking false articles and narratives that were generated by people who were in the porn industry. And It was a time that I wanted to really kind of discover myself. I did follow that path from in an egoic way where I used nofap to try to make myself a better person so I would be more attractive to the person that I was trying to attract, but I wasn't that wasn't good. I was still outward in, like I was still trying. It was for the validation and attention of this woman, this girl at the time. The root chakra will have you move and operate from a place of survival. I did things because I was afraid of how people would pursue me. And shame, I know anthropologically, is observed as a mechanism that is triggered when the group doesn't accept you. In hunter-gatherer times, the group not accepting you meant death. So anthropologically, I believe that is where shame came from. And shame is really just the lowest of the vibrational frequencies and emotional frequencies. But the root chakra will have you operate from that place. And on the flip side, the root chakra is about setting up a foundation for yourself spiritually. Now, there are two things I'll bring up. There is the Kabbalah, which, the ninth pillar or whatever. I'm still learning about all of these magical systems and whatnot. But Yasod is known as the foundation. And that is as much as I will get into that. But when we talk about a foundation for spirituality, we have to look at what we're doing practically to facilitate a spiritual inner environment. And I was kind of touching on this the other day when it came to practicality and spirituality. But there's also, I forget this Eastern concept. I believe it's called the five koshas. Let me look that up. The five koshas, I believe. But to keep the video going, yes, it is the five koshas. And from the lowest kosha to the highest, the concept is pretty much going through all of these layers that you need to go through from physical to spiritual as a foundational way to develop oneself. And so you have to have a good routine. You have to be hygienic, brushing your teeth, eating well, then you exercise. Exercise is medicine. You have to go for a run. You have to go to the gym and lift. You have to, do some, anaerobic and aerobic exercises. You have to do yoga. You have to take care of your physical body and have it express itself. Then you have, meditation. I am butchering this 100%, and I will go in depth into these concepts when I have a better understanding of it. But the point is, the root chakra is associated with that foundational energy. You know, this is the bridge between the spirit and the physical. That's why it has to do with the sexual organs. You know, when you talk about nofap, and then later when you talk about, I hate saying this name, but I will go with SR. We're talking about this concept of sexual energy turning from just that as like, sexual energy that you would use to go pursue someone for sex, and turning that into spiritual development, you know, developing your ideas and growing through the heart chakra to the higher levels, or climbing Jacob's ladder. The root chakra is associated with the beginning of that. And you have to develop practicality in your life and also cultivate consciousness. And when I say consciousness, I mean your ability to notice what is happening when it's happening, being present. Now, when you are operating from the dysfunctional side of the chakra, you are not present. Your ego is in control. Your subconscious is in control. Your shadow is in control. And your emotions are in control. And you are at the whim of whatever generates from that. But on the flip side, when you consciously do the things that you may not want to do, especially if you are a hedonist, if you need to cook food, healthier food, then in order to avoid buying food out that will be unhealthier and more expensive, you do that. If you go for a run instead of, or, do push-ups instead of opening the hub up, you do it consciously, because the flip side of that is falling out of consciousness. The root chakra is the root of all evil, but it is also the root of good. And it is the root of all good. Good and bad. Good and evil. The angel and the devil on your shoulder has its source in your root chakra. And as a Life Path 9, it's very important to understand that, because that is where you are. That is where Mars presides. When you look at if you look at any information regarding the root chakra, and if you look at any information regarding Mars as a lesser malefic, or just Mars in general, looking at Mars, maybe you're studying your natal chart through astrology or whatnot. If you know anything about those two, you will see how correlative those two energies are, or two concepts are energetically. How they rhyme, very much so, even down to the color. Mars is destruction, from what I've learned. Mars is destruction that could be directed toward oneself. It could be drive and lust and passion that could be uncontrolled, or you can understand it and use it for what it's supposed to be used for. You need passion, but passion without a head will lead to disaster. And the root chakra is similar. It's associated with that. That survival instinct is necessary, but when you do these conscious things to help bolster oneself, to help improve oneself, you set a excellent foundation to live a better life. And survival has to do with living. So I think starting there for me is really important because there's very little information about what my life path is. It's very little information, but I think that's amazing. I think that's perfect because, we're supposed to use our mind in order to figure it out. Look for the information. Seek and ye shall find. And I seeked, and I think I'm finding it, you know, and I think I'm on the right path. Like I said at the beginning, I'm at the beginning of my spiritual journey, but I'm learning now about the sacral chakra and how, how emotional energy and visualization and, sexual cultivation is supposed to be mastered. I'm learning about that now. I wasn't anywhere near that years ago. I would just consume information just to fill my ego and to be able to spit it back out to people ad nauseum without really having it take hold and take root in my life. And I am 27 years old. I'm about to be 28 in a month. I am in the mix of my Saturn return, and I don't want it to be pain for the sake of just pain and not learning anything. If my life is to be turned upside down, then when I flip right back up and when my life flips right back up, I want all the perspective from that experience. And I need to develop that spiritually through myself. And this is where I'm at now. I think I'm making these videos at a perfect time because I am going through this process organically. And I believe that making these videos will help me to express that. I believe I was built for this. And I think each video that I make, I am feeling more and more comfortable in this aspect of my life. And more ideas come to my head. And I can yap, and I can yap more and more on these things. I have an Aquarius stellium in the third house. I'm a Sagittarius rising. That says a lot. I say a lot. I can say a lot. And I need to learn more so that what I'm saying isn't just bullshit. Because a lot of what I said before and a lot of what I could say was bullshit. But anyway, that's beside the point. I'm glad to be making these videos, and I'm so glad that I can put a more positive energy out into these videos. And I'm going to be making more. I have ideas of things that I want to make, and I'm on it. I'm on it. So thank you for watching, and so long.